even for someone who was sympathetic to the argument that NATO was encircling, that Biden was kind of blowing through some of these buffers recklessly and without a real plan.
Quite literally, and I know we say it a lot, quite literally, Russian propaganda, Kremlin talking points 101. Now, I would be very surprised if the next words out of his mouth wasn't the Azov Battalion and denazification, just to kind of give you a refreshing memory on who this is. So he's the guy on the left here, right? So the guy that's now talking to Matt Gaetz, the guy on the left here, now on RT, speaking to another American who's in Moscow, and he's in Novgorod, right? And he's trying to say that it was the Ukrainians that were perpetrating a genocide. Just unbelievable bullshit. So that's who we're kind of picking apart now, in case you're wondering.
That you were interested in this story, that you'd been following it. You get this invitation. Where do you show up?
I'm sorry. Why are we blowing by that point? Like,
who are you talking with?
How exactly do you get an invitation by the Russian government to go to Russia, to then go to Ukraine to report Russian propaganda for the Kremlin on Russia Today, to then be allowed to come back to the United States and continue spewing that propaganda? Like, can we not breeze by that part? Like, how do you just get contacted by the Russian government?
You get this invitation. Where do you show up? Who are you talking with? Who is helping to coordinate some of these interactions?
So there was an international team, and there was a team that was working with some state agencies, but they were independent.
So the Russians knew you were there?
Yes.
Okay,
yeah,
so the Russians...
Yeah, they asked them to come there. That's the whole point.
They're aware you're there.
Yes.
They know you're there.
Well, you have to kind of get permission to go into some of these places.
Well, sure. I mean, the American government knows when a foreign journalist who isn't a citizen of the country comes here for the purpose of reporting. So,
but I never had any, like, forward-facing interactions with government
officials.
What
this whole thing reminds me of, too? You know what this whole thing reminds me of? Have you ever seen, like... There's a ton of them on YouTube, like the people that go and say they're touring or visiting North Korea, right? But they're on these like state sanctioned, like fucking, one place to another, can't stray off the beaten path. Like if you even look in the wrong direction, your camera's going to be taken. You'll be thrown in jail. You're brought to these like huge, amazing buildings that have like these grand lobbies and entrances. But there's nobody's ever in there, right? The heat's never on. There's TVs and computers, but nobody's ever sitting at them, right? There's a water park there, but the people don't actually look like they're having fun. They don't look like they're there by their own fucking accord, or looks like they've actually been brought in from around the country and been forced to go into this water park and make it seem like they're having a good time for the sole purpose of these tourists. Like, have you ever seen any of them? Right. And these people are like, wow, I'm so, like, some of them, not all of them, to their credit. Some of them are like, oh man, I can't believe what I've been taught by the media around the world. Like, this is so much different. And like, I don't see any of the things that I've been taught. Like, yes, because you're on a very guided, rehearsed, scripted tour, seeing only the things that this government wants you to see, right? Being brought to only places that they want you to fucking be brought to, so you can bring home exactly what you're bringing home now. Right. This is what this reminds me of. Like, oh, they were so nice to me. And, he'll be talking about like what it looks like on the streets of Moscow, and people don't know about the war, and like the shops are open. And it's like, this is the same shit. Like, you've been fucking brought on a propaganda tour like Tucker Carlson was, and you were so fucking dumb and ignorant that you were impressed by it and didn't dare to think, okay, what's going on outside of this tour? What's going on outside of these walls or outside of this city, right? Like, what are the real people of Russia experiencing? What are the real people of North Korea experiencing? Like, that's not at all what he was curious about. Like, he was brought on this fucking scripted propaganda tour by the Russian government, and he bought it hook, line, and fucking sinker.
It was never like, Ivan Ivanovsky of the state.
Which, by the way, is something I'm here to deeply criticize Russia over. Vladimir Putin, you should have allowed Pearson Sharp to interview you, and you were wrong for not granting Pearson his interview request. Lavrov, you're wrong about it. You're all...
And just to kind of refresh everybody's memory here, this one right here, this guy right here, let me see if I can pull this up, just to kind of give you a refreshing memory on who this is. So he's the guy on the left here, right? So the guy that's now talking to Matt Gaetz, the guy on the left here, now on RT, speaking to another American who's in Moscow, and he's in Novgorod, right? And he's trying to say that it was the Ukrainians that were perpetrating a genocide. Just unbelievable bullshit. So that's who we're kind of picking apart now, in case you're wondering who and, why we're listening to these fucking assholes.
Pearson's questions. But anyway, so you're there. What are some of the first scenes you're seeing? Your first perspective on this place that the Western media has been telling you is crippled as a consequence of the war?
Well, we land in Moscow, and I mean, right away, the picture is different from what we've been told.
This is fucking word for word what you'll hear if you go type in trip to North Korea. Go on YouTube, type up trip to North Korea. Fucking line for line what you hear from some of these morons that have gone there. Like, oh, it's so much. Look at how beautiful it is, and there's buildings and there's cars, and it's like, yeah, well, the fucking ain't nobody live in that building. That car is actually owned by a police officer, and that's one of fucking 4 in the whole town, right? It's like, it's unbelievable. It's like no different than Tucker Carlson being like, look at the grocery stores in Moscow. It's like they got lights and bread and stuff. Like, what? Yeah, that one does. How about you travel 30, 40 miles outside of the city and show us the fucking grocery stores there?
And I saw this subsequent times throughout my entire trip. The idea was reinforced that the sanctions and the impact that they're supposedly having is not nearly what we've been led to believe.
And I don't think that anybody is under the illusion that, like, the shops are closed in Moscow, right? Or the shops are closed in St. Pete. I think it's been accurately reported that the economy is on the ropes and that they're struggling, but in no way has the economy, I believe, been reported to have outright just been fucking shut down, collapsed, or anything like that. And it is very important for the Russian government, propaganda-wise, to continuously have streets like this, in places like this, in Moscow, stay open, to stay lit, to give the illusion that everything is okay. So when, foreigners or, people that they bring in go and walk down this street, they're like, oh, the whole country must look like this, right? Lights are on, fucking shops are open. No. You've been, again, led down this road of a scripted, state-sponsored fucking propaganda tour that you're buying hook, line, and sinker.
Life over there seems almost idyllic until you get to right where
Life over there seems almost idyllic. Now, does he not see the fucking irony in that? You want to know why it might seem somewhat idyllic over there? Which is, again, a bunch of fucking hogwash bullshit nonsense. What he means is they're not living under the threat of missiles and drones. And that's because the Ukrainian military is attacking military fucking installations and targets, not civilian infrastructure, not malls, not hotels, not hospitals or schools or churches or courtrooms. That's why these fucking Russians feel the safety that they have walking down that fucking street, because they know Ukraine's not targeting the civilian fucking population of Russia. That's why. So maybe we should fucking, I don't know, take a second and think about the idyllic nature of the fucking Russians as they're, again, being fucking put in prison for 15 to 20 years for protesting or exercising, the free speech that they don't have over there.
Actual war zone is happening. But, the average Russian day, Dmitry Dmitriev over there is having a pretty good time most of the time.
And what do they do most of the day?
Dmitry Dmitriev is having a pretty good time most of the time. Now, does that sound like what we've been hearing from the Russian people? And again, you can go online and there's a multitude of different fucking interviews that you can look at from people both still inside Russia and people that have left that show you and can depict the struggles and the hardships, the difficulties seen, maybe not inside the more prominent cities, especially not inside the more prominent areas of the prominent cities, but sure as fuck, as soon as you step outside of those prominent areas, it starts going downhill very, very fast.
What do Russians do every day?
Yeah, I don't know. Are there malls? Are there movies?
Yeah, absolutely.
Are there parks?
So one of my last nights, there's parks.
They get drunk.
One of my last days there, I just took a walk through Moscow, and I went through some of the bigger areas, some of the smaller areas, just try to get a cross section of it, and it was remarkable how normal everything was. There was no panicking. There was no
no panicking, because they're under no threat of fucking drones, missiles. Right, because the Ukrainians are not targeting civilian infrastructure. And again, this is no different than Tucker Carlson being like, look it, they have grocery stores. Look it, the lights are on. Yeah, well, guess what? I don't know. Is anybody actually in these stores buying shit? Can they afford it?
Trying to hoard supplies. Everyone was out. There's nightlife. This was like a Monday night, I think, and people were out living it up. I mean, it was the most normal scene you could picture. Safe, clean. People were happy, having a good time. It looked like downtown New
Now,
York.
tell me this isn't the most direct and obvious Russian propaganda, Kremlin bullshit that you've ever fucking heard in your life, right? Like, what do you hear about all of these dictatorial regimes and authoritarian? Like, the streets are clean. There's no crime. Well, there's a reason for that, because you've killed all the dissidents, right? You've threatened imprisonment of 20 years for people speaking out against the government, right? It's like, I don't know. I'd rather a couple fucking nappies on the ground and have my freedom and be able to actually pick it up, throw it away, and that sort of stuff than walk down the street not knowing when my freedom could be stripped from me at any given moment because of what I said now or a couple days ago or at this protest or that protest. But again, to say, oh, the lights are on and people are walking around, and that means that the sanctions are having no effect, even though this entire country is on a war economy, on a war footing.
Like, it was just such a stark contrast.
As you're watching that, does it feel like the war sits over the
That
culture?
guy didn't seem too happy to be filmed. Check this guy out. He didn't want to be on camera.
Stark
Watch
contrast.
this guy.
As you're watching that, does it feel like the war sits over the culture in any way?
Absolutely not. No, you don't get a sense that there's anything like a war
Do
happening.
people seem embattled?
No, it's very normal.
People
And
seem
No, it's very normal. Besides when you walk by the graveyards of the 1.14 million soldiers that have either fucking had their legs, heads, or arms blown off, besides almost every single Russian citizen you talk to that has been in some way impacted by the loss of a daughter, a niece, an aunt, an uncle, a nephew, a fucking husband, a wife, in this conflict. Besides that, there's nothing that I can tell that these Russian people even know that the war is going on. Besides the fact that, again, they're fucking paying a shitload more. They can't get gas in a lot of areas. And again, their family members are being slaughtered by the thousands on a daily basis in the Russian meat grinder in Ukraine.
scared.
no. And when you ask them about, how they feel about it, they're bothered that there's a war. They don't want to be fighting like anybody would, but the sanctions haven't impacted their lives.
So there's a theory I've seen. positive.
Horseshit. You could probably get away with saying the sanctions have not impacted their lives to the extent and at the rate that we would like to have seen them done, right? I don't think there's any problem or, misconception or lies in that statement, right? I don't think there is. I think we'd all have liked to seen these sanctions put on sooner, and I think we all would have liked to seen these sanctions be a lot stronger and have more crippling effect on the Russian economy. But when you have an authoritarian dictatorial regime like that has isolated itself, it makes it that much more difficult, right? They have done a good job of isolating their economy and insulating their economy to make sure that they can last in this exact situation, right? So again, we can only go so far, but I would like to have seen us go to, again, the fucking most extremes right off the bat to get the most impact from these sanctions, instead of fucking pussyfooting around and doing a little bit here, doing a little bit there, doing the oligarchs here and these businesses all at once, strip them all of all their fucking shit and use those funds and appropriate those funds to use to go towards ammunition, weaponry, aid for the people of Ukraine, medical equipment, vehicles, that sort of stuff. That's what I would have fucking done, right? But again, I don't think anybody can really say that we have not seen these sanctions have the impact that we would have liked to have them seen them have. But to say that they're having no impact whatsoever is just an absolutely fucking asinine statement. Not even being said by the Russian people themselves, who, again, are actively feeling the pinch, are actively feeling the war, whether it be through missiles or drones or loss of family or through their wallets.
That the sanctions regime actually was a form of economic nationalism that helped Russia. Like
Yes.
they had these oligarchs
100%.
that were spilling money all over the world. And when their yachts and townhouses and mansions were seized or under threat of seizure, they took the cash that they had and they brought it back to Russia and started developing.
That's precious. That is precious, Matt. That's cute. And a lot of the things I'm sure around you are cute, considering the age of females that you like to get involved with. You probably have a lot of cute teddy bears and shit around. But anyway, it's cute that you think that these Russian oligarchs chose, like, they volunteered their fucking wealth to be thrown back into the Russian economy, to be thrown at the war. It's very cute. It is. It's adorable. It is adorable that he thinks it was a choice that these oligarchs had, as opposed to Russia and Putin in the background saying, hey, You know that fucking, you know that money that I've been saying that I'm going to, you know, in a time of need, I'm going to call upon? Well, guess what? It's now that time of need, and we're either going to take it from you. You're either going to send it my way, or we'll take it from you while we push every single one of your family members off the roof of your house, right? So it's like, it's really cute and adorable, and it is very, very flattering that he thinks that these Russian oligarchs had some sort of choice in the matter with whatever funds that they had left after these sanctions. It is cute. It's cute. It shows his ignorance and how much he doesn't know about these situations and about Russia in particular, but it is adorable.
Being vertical residential, they started making investments in Russian factories.
I'm sorry. Did he just say vertical residential as some like futuristic substitute for apartment complexes in Soviet fucking housing blocks? I'm sorry. Did he just
they took the cash that they had and they brought it back to Russia and started developing vertical residential. They started making
vertical resident. Yes, because as we know, never in the history of the Soviet Union have they actually built any, you know, like high-rise block apartment units, because that's just something that the Soviet Union never did. It's actually probably a new thought by the Russian oligarchs to think like, we should build up. See, fucking shit me. Oh.
Making investments in Russian factories and manufacturing.
So much renovation.
And so I'm sitting there thinking, did the sanctions against Russia
they hurt us.
have like a similar effect to Trump's tariffs?
No, they hurt us.
Like Trump's tariffs were about giving.
Skip ahead just a second, and if there's not any more interesting parts, we'll skip ahead here.
Were they wearing Chinese
there's a lot
clothes?
of Russian music, but well, I didn't check the tags, but you know.
Yeah, but I mean like traditional Chinese go. Like,
no,
see,
I mean they
want to wear
American style, everything. But like traditional
American car, what would they? If you're a lot of the arguments you've been making since you've returned have come back to. But like if your average Russian family for the same price could have a comparable Chinese car or a comparable American car, what would they choose?
I couldn't say with certainty, but my feeling would be they choose American because they have a fetish for American stuff over there. Absolutely. And like
were they listening to Chinese music?
No.
Were they listening to American music?
It was American music.
Were they wearing Chinese
there's a lot
clothes?
of Russian music, but
Jesus Christ, like legit North Korea tour. He's come back from a tour of North Korea, put on and sponsored by Kim Jong-un, and he's like, I don't know what the problem is that everybody has with North Korea. The guy seemed really awesome to me. He gave me a couple Cokes, gave me a cheeseburger, sent me to this really nice hotel. Like, I don't know what everybody's talking about with North Korea. Things seem fine to me.
The cultural decay and Satanism that we have here in America is hard to deny. So from that perspective, it's easy to see why they want to resist that. And they look at it as a civilizational battle. And that's one problem I'm having with my reporting is coming back from there. You want to be balanced. You want to have the pros and cons. And from what I've seen, it's very hard to find any of the cons. Like
cons with what?
Cons as far as everybody portraying Russia to be negative or finding the downside to what they're doing or finding people who disagreed even with what they're doing.
Well,
I'm sorry. You don't see the downside in killing hundreds of thousands of people? You don't see the downside in losing over 1 million of your own soldiers? You don't see the downside in starting the biggest war in Europe since World War II? Is that what is that what he just said? Is that what he said? Is that what he said?
Let me offer that.
Yeah.
I mean, even for someone who was sympathetic to the argument that NATO was encircling, that Biden was kind of blowing through some of these buffers recklessly and without a real plan.
Quite literally, and I know we say it a lot, quite literally, Russian propaganda, Kremlin talking points 101. Now, I would be very surprised if the next words out of his mouth wasn't the Azov battalion and denazification.
I look at the amount of death and I look at the amount of bloodshed, and I look at Trump as a willing partner for peace. He's showing that in the Middle East. He's shown that throughout Africa. Why isn't Putin doing more to forge that peace? And by the way, I'm not saying Zelensky is a Boy Scout here. I think he's done plenty to sabotage, and I think that there have been some consequences for him.
Like what? Such as what?
As a result of that. But like, you know what I wish? I wish Putin and Trump could have emerged out of Alaska and said, look, we're meeting again in 6 weeks. And, we believe that we will have a ceasefire and then to see bloodshed reduce. Instead,
they stopped saying the word ceasefire altogether. The drones and missile strikes have fucking only increased. And Vladimir Putin has literally bitch slapped and kicked Donald Trump in the fucking crotch at every single turn.
increased the acuity of some of the attacks against Ukraine since Alaska.
Mhm.
And I don't know why.
All right, so fucking, I'm done with these two idiots. I think we can kind of figure out just what the the purpose of this meeting is. And again, no different than Tucker Carlson with his fucking Russian grocery store visit. This is absolutely North Korea style propaganda used by the Russians with an American, knowing that he would come back to America and sit down with Matt Gaetz and try to fucking perpetuate and spew more of this bullshit